Hey, the Wise Guys just started right now, which officially ushered in the not only the last Tuesday of June, but the best night of the week.
Tuesday night always is the best night of the week, right?
It is.
Never fails.
And we're happy to have you, Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. We're the Wise Guys. We got an awesome show tonight. We welcome everybody. The Philippines right out of the gate. Out of the gate.
Glenn Lewin.
Glenn's in from the Philippines.
He's in from the Philippines. First guy chiming in. I love it. And in recent weeks, we've had the Philippines represented. We've had South Korea represented. We've had Panama represented. We've had Japan. We've had Corey from Japan on with us. So in these last few weeks, but don't you love that when the very first person that chimes in today is Glenn from the Philippines? So our international group is bringing it strong here to start this Tuesday night. Tuesday night's always the best. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. We'll put the link in the chat. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Click on the bell. If you click on that bell, you'll get notifications and whenever we post something new or go live. So if we've got, and as football season gets closer and camp starts, we may do a little live stream at some point in the middle of the day.
Sky's the limit.
And so when we do something like that, you'll get a notice. You'll get a notice when this show's about to start. And a lot of big things going on. We can't tell you right now with the show as we approach football season and we approach August that we'll announce in coming weeks. But subscribe, click on that bell so that you get notifications. The longer, the more subscribers we have, the longer that our wives let us do the show. That's right. That's the theme.
Maddie from Logan is in. Thanks, Maddie. Follow us at ysguys.com. Subscribe to our weekly email. Get highlights from the show. That one's free. It's all free, and all our interviews are sitting right there. Danny Ainge, Marie Osmond, Jimmer Fredette, Ty Detmer, Kyle Van Noy, Jay Hill, Justin Enna, Gennaro Guilford, Sione Puha, Kelly Popinga, Fessy Sataki, Harvey Unga. That's just
can I tell you,
the tip of the iceberg.
Governor Herbert wants to know why you never say his name when you leave the list.
Is he on here?
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. He said to me, "Hey, you announce all these people. You never say Governor Herbert."
And Governor Herbert is on the show, and you can find that at ysguys.com.
And by the way, he was great.
And his son-in-law, Ben Cahoon, came on the show.
That's right.
And then he challenged his father-in-law.
That's right.
Revealing that that his father-in-law couldn't beat him at basketball in his prime, which the governor contested and hasn't been happy about it since.
Yeah, and hey, we did a new thing last week where a recruit announced where they were going. One of the top basketball recruits in the country. And bam, 10 minutes later, live on the show.
And there's a link between that superstar and the former superstar, high school superstar we're going to have on this show coming up here in just a little bit. Yeah, she's giving us the look right now.
No.
We mentioned Sherry Dew's on the show. We have people from all around the world already locked in on the live stream.
Yeah. Hey, Hawaii's in the house. So the Hadley
Aloha.
family, love having you with us from Hawaii. Aloha.
This is Big 12 week for BYU football. That's coming up. Sherry Dew, prep basketball star, executive, author, religious leader, BYU fan. And did Jimmer get disrespected by ESPN this week?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're going to get into that a little bit. So you want to do a couple of headlines before we bring Sherry in?
Let's do it.
BYU joins the Big 12. When's this happening? Well, on Friday, we're going to lead into this whole thing with a big countdown show at 11:30 Mountain Time. Jerem Jordan, Spencer Linton, Alema Harrington, streamed all on at BYU Football, accounts on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So at BYU Football, this is a big countdown show at 11:30 p.m.
And then at 12, fireworks.
Yep. Fireworks.
And the lighting of the Y on the mountain. Midnight. Because the second that turns over is the day that BYU joins the Big 12. And then there's the big party on Saturday afternoon, 3 to 6 Mountain Time at the Student Athletic Practice Fields, the indoor practice facility, Smith Fieldhouse Annex. Everybody's welcome. So there's going to be coaches, players, alumni, fans, live music, fire dancers, water games, food trucks, all on site out there on the practice field as we celebrate the Big 12.
And we're going to be there. We're going to originate a live show with our full set there, just like we do on game day, from 3 to 5. The fan festival is from 3 to 6. Big celebration of the Big 12. All sports represented there. And then when we get done with that show at 5, we'll love to stay around and visit with you. You have to go, though.
Yeah, we've got the capper of the big day is Stadium of Fire at 8 o'clock over at LaVelle Edwards Stadium. Journey's the headliner. Yeah, so I'll have some stuff over there. So
some stuff.
It's a doubleheader, but it's the ultimate doubleheader.
Dave has some stuff. He's the master of ceremonies of the stadium afire.
You know,
just like every year.
We were having our meeting the other day, and they're saying, "Hey, it's a 50-50 shot that you get to introduce the band." I always want to introduce the band.
Yeah.
So that was up from previous years, where it's like 20-80, 50-50. I said, "I'll take it." And so then, you know, it's fun because I got a chance to introduce Keith Urban.
Right.
When you say Keith Urban, the whole place goes nuts, and that's kind of fun to be a part of. And so Journey will be the same thing. We say, "Hey, everybody, well, blah, blah, blah. Welcome back, Journey." The place goes crazy, and the guitars come.
And you got a connection to Keith Urban, a connection that one of his writers that wrote some of his biggest songs is a good friend of yours.
Monty Powell's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, and Monty, man, did he hook us up?
Yeah, down in Vegas.
Because you and Diane and Brenda and I, we went to Vegas, and Keith was in residency down there, and your buddy hooked us up. Those were awesome seats.
Good deal.
And I had no idea that he was that, he's one of the best.
Because that was your first time.
I knew he was a great singer. I knew he was a great artist, but my goodness, can that man play the guitar?
Yeah.
Like, he is a phenomenal guitarist.
And you know who else is that? Neil Sean can play the guitar.
Yeah, he can.
And we'll see him Saturday.
Yep.
You can read more. I wrote an article about saying goodbye to June and hello to July and what it means for BYU football at Deseret.com. So that's there for you. And we had a chance to hang out with some of the guys yesterday at the BYU golf event at the Cedar Hills Golf Club here in Utah County. And you were just talking before we came on the air. Keaton Slovis looks ready to play.
Let me tell you two guys that were up playing golf yesterday that I looked at and I went, wow. I think I said wowzer. So first of all, Keaton looks really good. Like, he looks physically stronger than he did when he got here. And Keaton's been somebody that's always taken care of his body and worked hard. But I think he looks in particularly good shape right now. He is ready to roll, and he was in great spirits. And then Ben Bywater.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
I'm not sure if he's playing football or if he's getting ready to play the Incredible Hulk in the next movie that comes out. He looks really good. He looks big and strong and lean. And
everyone's happy because everyone's healthy now. The guys that missed spring, they're back and doing their drills. I had a chance to talk with Jaron Hall, who was there playing. He's back from minicamp with the Vikings, and we talked about replacing Dalvin Cook with that Madison guy. He thinks he'll be fine and what it's like to be in the locker room. And he looks ready to go. And we'll see him in the preseason here in early August, and he gets to live out his dream. But it was fun to have him back playing golf with his coaches and friends.
They had a bunch of NFL guys back there. James Empey, who's with the Titans right now, was there. Blake Freeland, who's a draft pick, was there. They had several of the big offensive linemen there, and they were in a circle, and I went over to talk to the guys, and I felt very, very small. Like, which I don't.
Even with your guns, you felt small?
I felt tiny. These guys, these are some huge human beings, and they look ready to go.
So it's a super week heading into Saturday. Let's roll out some key dates that we've been kind of checking off as we move through the calendar.
Yeah, let's start with July 12th and 13th. That's Big 12 Media Days down in Arlington, Texas. You're going to go down and do some interviews. I'm not going to go down this year. That's why we had the golf tournament this week.
Right.
Typically, BYU and Independence hosted their own media day. They were an independent. They weren't part of a league media day. And I love what BYU did, even though they're in the Big 12 now, and they're part of Big 12 Media Days. They said, hey, this has been a great tradition where we all get together, so we're going to have a golf tournament. Yeah. And we're going to go up to Cedar Hills, and we're going to play golf. Anybody that wants to stay after and do some interview, you can do some now. You can be down at the Big 12, but we're not going to let this tradition die. We're still going to do our own deal, but we're going to make it a little more fun. And the whole coaching staff was there, a bunch of players, a bunch of former players, and all the media joined up. And your team and my team weren't great.
No.
They weren't great.
But our team was so. I didn't play great, but I did hit a birdie putt at the end.
Nice.
And that was about all I hit.
We had a lot of fun. So the 12th and the 13th is Big 12 Media Days. And then July 18th.
Diane's got this on the family calendar.
July 18th, NFL training camp opens up.
That's 21 days. 21 days.
Yeah, that's when rookies start to report. So
AFR kicks off its 10th season 4 weeks from tonight.
Can you believe it?
That's July 25th.
Wait, I'm trying to remember. We already know what our first topic's going to be.
It's the Jaron Hall Puka Nakua show.
Oh, that's right. We're going to a year.
All their highlights together are going to be awesome.
A year in review with those two stars that I think are going to be stars in the NFL. That'll be a really fun show. So make sure you join us for that one on July 25th. August 2nd, that's when the players report here at BYU. That's according to Festi Sataki, who was on the show here a few weeks ago. Festi says that August 2nd, they'll report. They'll start practicing the next day on the 3rd, and then we're off and running. Off and running. Also on the 3rd, as the Cougars report, Zach Wilson and the Jets are actually playing a game on TV against the Browns in the NFL Hall of Fame game. That's only 37 days away.
Remember when it was like 200 days away?
Yeah, it's
now
crazy.
it's 37 days away.
Yep, that is crazy to me. August 16th, that's Cougar kickoff from 6 to 9 p.m. on the SAB practice field with Fall Sports.
So everyone come see everybody?
We're going to have this Big 12 kickoff, and then we're going to have Fall Sports kickoff. So it's the same kind of thing, a big fan festival. Wait a minute. What's the Friday that Elder Sikahema is coming, and we're going to play a little golf and have some lunch?
I think that was end of July.
I think we need to say it right now to hold him to it, so he can't back out.
Yeah, he's been pretty loose with his commitments when it comes to us and lunch.
So Elder Sikahema is coming up, and we were going to do it in the next couple of weeks, and then we realized it would be way more fun to go play 9 holes, have lunch, and then go to practice. So we pushed it off until that second week of practice. So Elder Sikahema, and we always attribute a saying of Elder Sikahema's very often on this show, which is,
if it's free,
it's for me, and I'll take 3. That's my saying. So,
and then September 2nd is Sam Houston at BYU, 8:15 p.m. Mountain Time on FS1. 2-hour pregame show with us before on BYU TV, and we're off and running.
I saw an ESPN thing last night where they were showing the teams that are predicted to win the fewest number of games this year, and Sam Houston, the over-under was 3.5.
It's their first year at this level of football, and they're going to find out that it's a little harder.
And they play aggressive schedule. So 3.5. They're counting on BYU handling Sam Houston, as we all are.
Pro Football Focus put out their Big 12 power rankings this week. I wanted to get your opinion on that. They got Texas number 1, Oklahoma number 2.
Let's clarify. This is the Big 12.
Big 12.
Not number 1 in the country.
Right.
That's never anybody but Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State.
Texas didn't win it last year, but they're picked back at the top, as they always are.
Right.
Oklahoma there. TCU at number 3. Then you go down to number 10, and there's BYU. Interesting, behind BYU, they have Texas Tech, Iowa State, West Virginia, and Kansas. 4 teams on BYU's schedule. So what does that tell you? They expect BYU to beat those 4, and if they do, they only need 1 more, and they're looking at a 7-5 season.
Yeah, so we've been talking about realistic expectations, saying, hey, in this first year as they make this transition, they got to stay healthy, but if they could win 6 or 7 games and get to a bowl, it would be a remarkable start. Well, Pro Football Focus is saying they're getting 4 league wins right there, and we're just going to assume that they beat Sam Houston and SUU. There's 6 right there.
Right.
You telling me they can't win a couple more?
I'm telling you, if they do that, they can win. And now they believe they can win. Why can't they win a whole bunch more?
Are we underestimating them?
I don't know.
Are we just being cautious?
The power rankings for those guys, they have BYU at number 10. Hey, Mike from Beaumont, Texas on with us.
Yeah.
Good to have you here, Mike.
All over so our span tonight, like Hawaii to
Texas, Philippines.
To the Philippines.
And Colombia is going to be checking in here shortly.
Yeah, come on, Colombia and Panama, where are you guys tonight? and come on, Corey, let's get in here from Japan. What's going on?
He might be getting ready to go over to the British Open.
Yeah, he probably is.
A couple of weeks.
Probably is.
College Football Focus put out their top 10 transfer quarterbacks for 2023. A couple of familiar names on here, and then Keaton Slovis is in this group.
Yeah, so number 1 they have is Sam Hartman, Notre Dame via Wake Forest.
And he was really good at Wake Forest.
Very good at Wake Forest, and they throw the ball around. And
so is Notre Dame now going to do the run and shoot?
I don't think so.
Can they do that?
Because Notre Dame's more of a ball control mentality because they have a defensive-minded head coach.
Yeah.
And so but he's very skilled. He's really good. He's number 1. Number 5, Brendan Armstrong.
Remember him?
Yeah, do I remember him? Like, could BYU stop that guy from completing a ball? And now the good news is they couldn't stop BYU from completing a ball either.
He was at Virginia, and remember he got hurt after his second interception, and but BYU had kind of taken over at that point.
Yeah, he's at NC State, via Virginia. We were exhausted after that game.
Yeah,
that was an exhausting game. So, and then number 8 coming in at number 8. So top 10 is Keaton Slovis, BYU's Keaton Slovis via Pittsburgh. An interesting story at Pittsburgh. A lot of the promises they made him about changes in the offense, they didn't follow through on.
Including the coordinator that brought him there, who left.
Said, yep. And so it ended up being you and I had a really good conversation with Keaton where he talked about how different his approach was this time as he was choosing where to go for this last season to prepare himself for the NFL. And man, he was very thoughtful. And he even said the very first school I chose, USC, he was one of the top 5 rated quarterbacks in the country. Yeah. USC comes and makes an offer. And he says, I didn't even think about it. I just thought, USC, we take that, right?
Yeah.
They get all these great guys, we go. And he says, I didn't think about how would I fit into the culture, which you didn't love. Is this offense going to prepare me? Like there's all these things that he considered this time, and I love the things that he considered, because he decided that he loves the culture at BYU.
Right.
And I'm telling you, now several months later, he still loves the culture at BYU, and his teammates love him.
Yeah, he was running around there Monday like he's been here his whole life.
Here for 4 years, and so culture was important to him. Style of play was important to him. A coach that would develop him for the NFL was important to him, and a team that can win was important to him. And he feels like he got all of that with BYU. A very calculated decision. And Keaton Slovis had a lot of options and came to BYU.
Linda's in with us from Colorado, and Steve is with us tonight from New Hampshire. And
we got the
Courtney
Northeast
says we're
in
the
house.
coolest. That's my daughter Court, so that's good for we got. She
thanks.
says we're the coolest.
Thanks, Courtney.
Court. Appreciate that. Should we bring in our headliner tonight?
Oh,
We've held
yes.
off everyone as long as we could. It is our pleasure. Our guest tonight is listed among the most notable people ever to come out of Ulysses, Kansas. I Google it, and that's what I found. She is the Executive Vice President of Deseret Management Corp., which, among other things, includes Bonneville International, which includes KSL TV and KSL News Radio, Deseret News, and Deseret Book. DMC is the for-profit arm of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The BYU grad is among the most loyal Cougar fans in the world, and we have been counting down to this night. We welcome Sherry Dew to the Wise Guys. How you doing?
Nice to be with you. And as you listed all those people have been on, I thought, well, what in the heck were you guys thinking when you invited me?
They're just the warm-up band. That's the warm-up
That's
band.
nuts.
We've been building for 55 weeks to get to this.
Sure.
I saw Sherry a few weeks ago.
Right.
With
Steve Young.
Yeah, at Steve's thing. And I told her, like, we've been building for this. We've been pumped about getting her on and having you on the show. We're really excited to have you here.
Seriously,
Nice to be here.
when you Google notable people from Ulysses, your name pops right up in the top 5.
That's because there's more cows in the county I came from than people. That's why.
You were born in Big 12 country, but on the other
Yeah.
side of the state,
Yeah.
where BYU will play Kansas in Lawrence on September 23rd in the first ever Big 12 game for BYU. Over all these years, did you ever think this day would come?
Absolutely not. I mean, we grew up watching KU basketball, not football.
Right.
I mean, right. But watching KU basketball, my dad was a huge KU fan. We became huge KU fans. In fact, we were super active in the little branch of the church that was in Ulysses, Kansas. I'm not sure when I realized that KU basketball wasn't actually a part of the church. I mean, we were it was such a big deal, right?
Yeah. And still is.
And still is. So I've been watching elite basketball my whole life. I mean,
I mean,
honestly.
that league.
That was the Big 8 then.
Right.
Yeah,
Just the
that's
Big 8, right?
The league, the last 10 years, all but 1 year in the power rankings has been rated the best basketball league in all of America. And so,
Hands down,
Yeah,
right?
and so it's so fun for BYU to have these schools and for BYU fans to be marching through the Marriott Center in basketball
It's
and in
going to
football
be
every week.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be crazy.
In reverse, Sherry, all of a sudden now BYU is going to be going to these markets in Big 12 country,
Right.
where they haven't been before.
Right.
On a regular basis, they're going to be in the Midwest. How important is that for BYU fans that have, like you, grew up kind of distanced from it?
I think it's going to be awesome for so many reasons. I think it's great for its owner, the church. I think it's great for BYU, the institution. I think it's great for the people in the Midwest. Honestly, that whole area of the Midwest will resonate with BYU and its values and its style of play.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'm listening to you guys talk about how many games are we going to win, and I'm thinking,
Yeah, we're going to ask you that question coming up. So
yeah, don't.
Ponder that one.
We try not to even predict in basketball. We did a few weeks ago, but we stay away from basketball because that's a bigger challenge
that's a little
than
different.
football. Right?
Football, football's going to be tough too. But and Blaine and I have traveled with the team for years, and the team comes in, the community's elevated. They used to have firesides on Friday night, all this stuff. Mass amounts of BYU fans at the stadium, and they're gone and maybe never come back. Like, we may never play at Michigan again. We might not ever
Right.
play at Wisconsin again.
Right.
But now
We're gonna
BYU
keep
comes back
coming
every
back.
other year. And
Yeah.
if they're not here, the basketball team is, or the
Yeah.
volleyball team. And it seems like it could be a game changer for a lot of folks.
I think it's a game changer for any BYU fan who lives in the Midwest. I think it's a game changer. I frankly think it's a game changer for members of the sponsoring institution,
Yeah.
the church. I think that's a huge deal because the church isn't huge there. But I also think BYU, I think it's a step up in the Big 12. I mean, we got to be realistic. And my mind goes first to basketball because I've been watching KU all these years. And boy, I think that's a leap. That's playing Gonzaga every week.
Right. It is.
And if Gonzaga had to play Gonzaga every week, they wouldn't be as good as they are.
I mean, think about all the notable P5 victories we've got. We've got some fabulous victories, but we haven't been playing a P5 schedule.
Every single week. And in football, we talk about this a lot on the show. This independence period has been a great transition because they played 7 P5 games. I mean, we say they won the Pac-12 2 years ago because they went 5-1.
I've said that too.
So our friends in Salt Lake City frown at us
like it.
when we say it, but we don't really care if they don't like it. So, but not.
It's our podcast,
But in basketball, the Mountain West or the Mountain West and then the WCC, it's not close to the Big 12. It's a much bigger jump, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it just is. Well, think about it. Let's just take KU. It is perennially in the top 10. It's usually in the top 5.
Yeah.
And they can't run the table in the Big 12.
Right.
Any given game, K-State can beat them. K-State, what did they do? Make it into the Elite Eight last year?
Yeah, they were great.
Year?
The last couple years, they've been great.
They had a great team. And Baylor, I mean, hasn't the Big 12 won 2 of the last 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
In basketball? So, it's in a very elite level.
It's a stretch. We realize and we talk sports a lot. We talk other things too, but we realize there's things of greater importance around the world, right? But you rub shoulders with a lot of church leadership in your role. How do they see this Big 12 opportunity for the church's largest university to send its folks out to the alumni and make a difference in those communities? When BYU comes into town, like especially with football, they do service projects in these communities. There's a lot of visibility. Is there a buzz about it up in church leadership?
I hear a buzz. I would never presume to speak for the leaders of the church at all. I do hear a buzz. I think there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of hope. But can I answer that a different way?
Yeah.
Because as I was driving down here today, I was thinking about a couple of experiences that, one that was quite a few years ago and one that was more recent, that talks about the potential here in terms of the church. Now, if we're talking about the sponsoring institution. So first of all, let's go back to the National Championship season. The following, you guys are too young to probably remember this, but the following fall, when Sports Illustrated did its collegiate preview of football, inside, what was there? There's this huge article. I think it spanned 5 or 6 pages by Gary Smith, and it featured 3 missionaries who were on the BYU team who missed the national championship season because they're out teaching the gospel. The opening spread is of a guy standing, I think he was standing in Lake Titicaca, in his whites, with a guy who's going to be baptized in his whites. There's like this Peruvian-looking boat in the back. It's very exotic. And the whole article is about missionary work. Come on, you can't buy that kind of stuff, right?
No.
But it happened because they won.
Yeah.
Great exposure. I love that she thinks I'm way younger than I am.
So Blaine was on the 84 team.
So when Robbie
And the 85
when
team.
Robbie got knocked out of that, when Robbie got knocked out of the game,
You're right. I am so much younger
He's
than
so
Blaine.
much
You
younger,
are right.
like
But
a
Miss
couple
Blaine
years.
was on it.
When Robbie got knocked out of that game,
That's right. How did I forget
a very
that?
young version of me came into that game against Michigan. So
No.
I've always
Do you remember
loved
that
I always
article?
loved Sherry.
Now she's moved to the top of the
she's
list.
like maybe my favorite person in the
So,
world right
do you
now.
remember that article, though?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Just
And
everything that came from
I
that.
even talked to the article. Gary Smith was the writer. I called him and said, "Tell me about that thing." He said, "Man, I can't believe you're missionaries." Right? Because he had gone and lived with 3 of them for a little while.
Yeah.
He said, "I felt so bad that they missed the season, but man, I can't believe you're missionaries." So again, you can't buy that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it happened because you guys won.
Yeah.
You have to win to get it.
And
That's right.
on the march that season, as we made our way into the top 10 and then to the top 5, this Cinderella story, there were national articles all the time. And if you go back and look at that, rarely, if ever, was there not a mention of the sponsoring institution.
Right.
Right? So they talked about the affiliation with the church. I remember we had one game left to play in the regular season, and we were going to go up and play Utah State. We didn't play Utah the last game that year, which was interesting. And we got invited to come up and have dinner up in the Joseph Smith building. What was it then? It's just
Hotel Utah.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Quorum of the 12 and the First Presidency. And we went up there, and I'll never forget Mark Bellini, who was not a member of the church at the time. He's just, all of our non-member teammates were just kind of big-eyed, and Elder Perry came up to Mark, and the first thing he said, "Oh, Mark Bellini, wow, your picture was in Sports Illustrated this week." And he walked away, and Mark says, "Your general authorities read Sports Illustrated." He thought it was the coolest thing. That was the start to Mark getting baptized right there. But
cool.
So there was a lot of internal conversions that happened during those times with players from all over the country that came in that were not members of the faith, that converted to the faith. There's also a number of members that have come through the program over the years. We've had the great Reverend Derwin Gray on a couple of times on the show.
Yeah.
And
Great guy.
Derwin has
Great
gone
guy.
out to North Carolina and is
Made a difference.
Made a huge difference in the world. Even though he didn't convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he went and made a difference in the world, and he teaches of Christ and does great things. And the program's had a great reach. That reach has come because they win.
Yeah. So one other example about that is after Tanner Mangum throws the last second thing to Mitch Matthews in Nebraska, right?
Right.
Like a couple of weeks later, I'm walking through the VIP tent at halftime, and they're showing ESPN and everything that's the halftime show. And what are they featuring? They're showing Tanner Mangum in his missionary name tag walking on the back streets of a Chilean village.
Yeah.
And so these ESPN guys, not KSL, not the Deseret News, it's ESPN talking about how cool that was that he served this President Nelson, Mormon mission.
Yeah.
And again, you can't buy that kind of endorsement or that kind of thing that it happened because they won. You got to win to get that kind of attention.
Is that why there is an emphasis to keep sports at BYU? One, it's self-sufficient, operates in the black. That's probably a big reason, and especially now with Big 12 money coming. But and we had some questions on our live stream of people wanting us to ask you that. From your take, the commitment to keep sports alive at BYU. For some reason, everyone worries about it just because sports used to be at Ricks College and now it's not at BYU Idaho.
Yeah.
But what's your take on that?
I don't know, and I have no background inside knowledge. I know that every chance I get, I can say, no, let me say it this way. I do interact with senior brethren a lot.
Yeah.
When they see me coming, they know there's going to be an opening conversation about either BYU football or basketball. There's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
And I just think that this is now me speaking, not me quoting anybody else. I think sports transcends. It gets somebody out of getting all worried about the faith or the doctrine or something else, and it allows somebody to experience our kids and what we stand for in a different sort of way. So I'm picturing the picture of our soccer team, the ladies soccer team. On the weekend, they're playing for the national championship,
Right.
and they're lined up in front of a meeting house. They've gone to church on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
It's just a different thing. It gives you a different talking point. So it gives you a chance to talk about who we are, but it kind of transcends it too in a way that it takes away the awkwardness for those who feel awkward talking about religion.
Yeah.
So I just think that sports, if you win and if you show good sportsmanship, both on the field and in the stadium, I think it transcends and gives us a chance to show who we are as a people. So I'm a believer. I'm a total believer.
I'm going to say amen to that for sure, Sherry. We had an interesting experience last year as we're kicking off the Big 12. The opener last year, even though it wasn't a Big 12 season, was Baylor and BYU Stadium. So we do a game day special.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
It was great.
It's a hot
Yeah.
night. It was great.
But we sent a full crew down to Baylor University for a week down there, and we shot stories about the good things that they're doing on their campus, and we
Cool.
interviewed a lot of their leaders of the university, and then on our show, our live show, our 2-hour pregame show, we had the commissioner of the Big 12, but we also had the president of Baylor University. And when we got done, we were having a visit, and she was just like, I can't get over that you guys sent a crew down, and that she says
That you care
we
about us.
care.
and I think it's important that BYU does that for everyone, that they show, listen, our arms are open for everybody to come onto this campus and to see what we're all about, and to see our sportsmanship and see the kind of the kids that we put out on the field and do all of that. And they were very, very impressed and voiced that to us. And then she said, President said, This is going to be a really, really good relationship because BYU is probably the closest to us in this league and some of the standards and the way we like to operate things. I can see this being a really, really good partnership moving forward. I thought that was great. It's a
awesome.
year away, and that was the comment she made to us.
So you know what? BYU TV is going to every campus this year
Yep.
on the schedule. We'll have the same stuff.
That's fabulous.
And it's just it's an icebreaker, but it also shows that we mean business and that we're nice. And it's
well,
football.
and then we care about them. And then we
Yeah.
care about them, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Sherry Dews, author, executive, public speaker, concert pianist on the Wise Guys tonight, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. If we had a piano down here, we'd ask
Yeah.
you to
I
play.
want to know if she should have accompanied my Libby when she sang a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Hey.
she should have.
She should have done it.
Let's get to, are you ready to talk about
She's
some
so
good stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Last week we had Delaney Gibb on the show. She's the number 2 player in Canada, made her commitment to play at BYU. Just a few minutes before our interview, she's 5'10". Seems appropriate. We have another 5'10" basketball star on the show tonight, and that's you. You're it. Before we get into
Star
details,
used so
we're using
loosely.
star. We're using it.
Wow.
What is it about that game that you love so much?
Basketball?
Yeah.
I think it's because, to me, it is the ultimate sport. I think you can say this about any sport. But to me, it's the ultimate sport that you can shine as a player. You want players to shine. You want them to be the best they can be. But if you don't play as a team, you don't win. You just do not win. We could look at any number of really great teams with a lot of talent, and they never pull off a championship because they just, well, I would, do I dare say this?
Do it.
It's Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert.
Right.
Yeah.
A classic case. Both great guys, both great players. Couldn't pull out.
Couldn't get out of the first round.
Couldn't get out of the first round.
Right.
They couldn't figure out how to complement one another.
Yeah.
Not on the floor, not off the floor. Like they just couldn't complement.
And it's
one
just
another.
really sad, and I don't know why that happens, but sometimes it does. So I love that you have to play as a team, and I love that you want to shine. You want everybody to shine. But nobody shines every night. Tyler Haws didn't shine every night.
Yeah.
Yoli Childs didn't shine every night. Devin Durant didn't shine every night. But they shined a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you want that, but you got to play as a team. And sometimes, like I was really impressed. I kept thinking about, was it Jackson Emery who played alongside of Jimmer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great
think-
defender.
Yeah. And probably could have been a greater scorer,
Yeah.
but he let Jimmer have the deal. And I kept thinking, that's kind of amazing. And he did it game after game after game. I thought, okay, he's accepted a role, and he's playing the role, and he's playing it really well. I don't know. I
and
think
he's
that's
having a
interesting.
good time
Yeah,
because they're winning.
Yeah.
It's so that tells you how Sherry watches the game, right? It's like, so you pick up things that just a casual fan doesn't see. So I was doing a Colorado State BYU game for NBC over in Colorado, and Tim Miles was the head coach of Colorado State, and I said, how do you stop Jimmer in this game? And he goes, you know what? Everybody's Jimmer. He goes, don't get me wrong, Jimmer's great. He goes, the guy that drives me nuts is Jackson Emery.
Yeah.
And I said, why Jackson Emery? He says, I've never seen a kid just decide to dial up a game-changing defensive play anytime he wants.
Yeah.
He says, Jimmer will come down, get a little loose with the ball, turn the ball over, and Jackson Emery will go right down to the other end of the floor and take it back.
And get the ball back.
And just like nullify the mistake that was made. And he goes, I've never seen a defender be able to decide when they're going to make a big play and go make it. He goes, he says, I think Jackson Emery is the most underrated player in the league. But he knew that was his role. So he took great pride in that role.
Yeah.
And Sherry's exactly right.
And then he
Like,
was
What they
good
win?
at it.
28 games,
yeah.
29
Yeah,
games.
and so you've got to have everybody that understands what they're supposed to do to complement one another and then watch each other shine to be good. Right?
And look, I still believe that if Brandon Davies had been able to play all
Right.
the way through the tournament, I think it was for sure an Elite Eight team, and it
Yeah.
might have been higher.
Could
absolutely
have been our
That-
only Final Four.
Oh, I
team.
know. I
So
still
close.
agree about that.
So it's reported that when you're a senior year in high school, you average 23 and 17. 23 points and 17 boards.
Yeah, probably.
So
That's what we want to talk
that's
about.
what I want to talk about.
That's what we
Let's
want to
talk
talk
about that. What was
I don't know.
your,
Where do you even get that? I don't even know where you get
It-
that, but that
you-
could have been.
Hey,
It's
we
in the
studied.
cloud.
We
It's-
studied. It's up there. It's
Yeah.
out there. So 23 and 17. What's your favorite memory or maybe your greatest moment in basketball?
And what was Ulysses? What was your mascot?
Ulysses Tigers.
The Tigers.
Tigers.
Yeah.
All right.
With the most horrible looking orange uniforms on planet Earth. Really pretty bad. Nobody looks good in orange. You know, as strange as it may sound, I mean, we take basketball in Kansas pretty seriously,
Right.
including for girls. And that long ago. I mean, that's a long time ago, you guys. And probably the most vivid memory for me is, and this is like 8th grade. This isn't even high school. We were playing our arch rival. They were so good. And it was tied, and one was you're switching the lead back and forth in the last quarter. And I hit like 10 free throws in a row. Drives me crazy.
When people can't make free throws?
I can't. I do not understand how college guys can't make free throws. Okay, that's a whole nother topic. Will get me off.
So you make 10 in
script
a
here.
row.
And then I went up for a rebound and came down on my ankle wrong. And I mean, by the time I got off the court, it was the size of a cantaloupe. It was just, it was gone. I'd stripped some tendons and stuff, and we lost. But I still remember the grief because I knew we could have won that game. I couldn't believe I hit those free throws in a row, didn't miss a one, and then I couldn't finish the game. So there's something about that. I mean, again, that's not even like your senior year when there's some big thing that happens. There's some reason the regret about that and not being able to finish it out is probably my most vivid memory.
So if you're averaging 23 points, then there were probably some nights when you had 40. What was your biggest scoring night?
I don't remember. Honestly, don't remember.
There were so many
I had a lot of games in the 30s.
in the 30s. What was it? Were you like Jim, or you could score wherever you were in the floor?
I could move around the basket. I
Yeah.
could move around the basket, and I had a jump shot that was just inside the free throw line in that arc. I had a turnaround jump shot that was maybe just a little before. Look, so my best friends in high school were the guys that played on the high school basketball team. So I went and said, "Show me how to do that." And so I would go, after they were done with the practice, I'd go into the gym and say, "Hey, show me how you do that." So I was trying to play like the guys play. Well, girls can't play quite like the guys play for sure, but they showed me some of their moves, and I could do some of that. And it was probably a little bit before some of the other girls caught into that. Today, yeah, I would be nothing.
Mid-range game.
Mid-range.
Like we always talk about Tyler Haws, BYU's all-time leading scorer, and the lost art of the mid-range game, shooting from the elbow.
Especially if you can turn around and shoot with a quick release.
Yeah. And so many people,
It's hard to defend.
Kids grow up today, and they get out on the three-point line, and they just shoot 100 threes,
Yeah.
and then they go try to dunk. And if they can't dunk, they get a mini tramp and dunk. All they want to do is dunk and shoot threes.
Yeah.
The lost art of the mid-range game.
In today's game, the three-pointer gets a bigger rush from the crowd than the dunk.
Then dunk.
Yeah.
Especially if it's from way out there.
Well, it's beautiful. Let's just say, what's a more beautiful sound than swish? Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
How about the chain net out the
Yeah.
in the
the
park,
chain-
the chain net, there's nothing like that.
So in this dominance, you're also like shy, and we'll talk about
Very shy.
what kept you off the floor at BYU. That's coming up. How do you average 23 and 17 as like the shyest person in school?
I don't know. I wasn't shy on the court. It felt like home to me. It felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had a place there, and you kind of start to meld as a team, and then you feel like you belong. The shyness is I'm still shy. I'm still socially shy, but I've learned how to deal with it. And once you get past the initial introduction, then I'm not shy, right?
Yeah,
Once you get past
sure.
and start to have the connection, then you go, okay, we can do this. But yeah, I'm still, to this day, I'm a little bit awkward.
So when you were playing in your playing days, you were not shy on the bench then. So anytime
No.
you were that team,
No.
you were a leader on the team. It wasn't, hey, I just step over that line and I'm on the court. Now I'm a terror. But as soon as I step off the court, I'm shy. It was in your comfortable surroundings.
Yeah.
When you were confident with your abilities and your relationships.
Well,
you
and
weren't
those were
shy.
my friends, right? They became my friends.
Right.
And it's not like I was like the standout. There were several of us that were probably the core around which the team formed. It's that nucleus that has to.
Right,
That's
sure.
what you have to do. You have to have a team. You have to have a group that will play together. And some days you do have the high score, and because of the matchup you have, you just do better. And sometimes you're feeding it to the other guy, and that was okay. However it worked was fine.
How did you? This would be interesting. How did you overcome that shyness? to break the ice, to be out there. You've been in really visible positions for a long time now. How does a shy person
Cope
end
with
up?
it?
Yeah, how do you cope with that? Is it not a constant conflict?
It's a constant conflict. And it's hard for me to this day, and people don't believe it. So I was not shy on the court, and I'm not shy behind a pulpit. If I'm invited to do something, then I'm not shy to do it. But for me to suggest and put myself forward, I would never do that. I don't have it in me.
You have written about a life lesson you learned in 1971 when there was a spot open on the BYU women's basketball team, and you did not take it, go after it.
Yeah, classic.
And then you've talked about never hiding your talents as a lesson from that. If you could have a do-over, would you be there for the first day?
Yeah. When I learned that they played that whole season one player short, and literally Elaine Michaelis said to me, "I think I was looking for you." Well, who knows if I could have made the team? I don't know.
Oh,
who knows if I could have made
the team.
But
23-17 is
you
evidence
could have
enough.
been. And when I think of basketball, high school basketball, the two states that come to mind for me are Indiana and Kansas.
Yeah.
It's good basketball in those states, and always has been.
Yes,
So
that's true.
If you're 23-17 in the state of Kansas, you can play at BYU.
And it was just a couple years before.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And cracking open the gym door in the Richards PE building, and I'm going, oh man, those girls look really good. I don't think I can do it. And it's like I froze. I couldn't go in, and it kills me that I made that mistake.
And now you stare into the eyes of young women all over the world, and you say, "Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Step out. Say, okay, ask for help. Ask for God's help. Pray. Ask for courage. But don't do that and then wonder for years if you could have made it." And I would have never found out about that opening, by the way, if I hadn't been speaking to all the girls on scholarship at a thing down here.
Yeah.
And I thought, I think I'm going to tell them how much I envy them and how proud I am of them, really, how envious I am that they've been able to do something I kind of always wish I could. I think I'll tell them that story, which I had never told. And Elaine Michaelis happened to be sitting in the audience, and that's when she said, you want to know something about that team?
Here's the rest of the story.
It was the rest of the story. Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting because I feel like with kids as they're growing up, I'm interested in your take on this as well. As parents, one of our responsibilities, I feel like, is to help them with confidence, to not be afraid to go out there, to build them up and say, you can do this, like you belong. Go, to not give them unrealistic expectations, but to give them the confidence to get out there and put themselves out there. And that's hard. That's hard to do sometimes because the world beats them down all the time. Friends tell them they're no good. The world tells them they're no good. And I feel like in the home, we need to be a force for positivity. What's your thought on that?
I obviously I've never had the chance to have my own kids and wonder how I would have handled that. And it's one of the great sadnesses for me of my life. But I will say this. I'm watching my nieces and nephews now raise their kids, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, some of these nieces and nephews of mine are amazing parents. And one of the things I see a number of them doing that I think is really profound is giving their kids a chance to try a lot of things. Let's try a lot of things. Let's see what you're good at. Let's see what you like. Let's see what you resonate with. And then really, but giving them a broad exposure. And again, our whole family is Sports Illustrated. I've got a sister that would tell you she's way better than I ever was. And she might actually have been. I never like to admit that, but I think she probably was better than I was. And I think both of my brothers were all state in something or other. So we're a sports family.
Yeah.
I love watching them give their kids opportunities to say, do you want to rock climb? Do you want to play soccer? Do you want to go to the gym and figure out what it's like to start to kind of get fit even when you're just kind of little? Do you want to learn to play this? You want to learn to play that? So for me, part of it is exposure to say, what do you resonate with? And yeah, we like to do things with our bodies. We like to see if we can excel and to give them an idea about that without making them feel like they have to win the championship. So I don't know how you do that as a parent. I've never had the chance to try it. But I'm watching some members of my family kind of do it in an amazing way.
Yeah. Do you still have your shot?
I got bad knees.
But you can still shoot free throws. You went 10 in a row. Can you still shoot the free throws?
That's a great question. I had to go try. I still have a pretty, well, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. I actually tied Jimmer in a game of horse. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
I believe
man,
that.
I'm going to go watch that.
I believe that. We had Amber Whiting here a couple weeks ago with her daughter Amari. If you were to line up with Amber and shoot 10 free throws,
She'd probably beat me because the spring you need kind of you don't realize what your knees do until they don't work.
Yeah.
Amen.
And one
Yeah,
of them's
I
been
know.
one of them's been replaced and the other one needs to be. I'm not sure she'd beat me. She would beat me now.
But back in the day, no way.
Back in
Yeah.
the day, I think I could have
We
held.
asked-
hold,
we had
I think I
Amber-
could have held my own.
Her daughter, who's one of the top
Yeah.
recruits in the country and an All-American.
I can't wait
And
to
we
watch
said-
her play.
We said,
They're gonna be
and we
good.
were thinking about the two of them. We're like, who's the best? And they both go, Trent. That's their dad.
Trent
who
Whiting.
was one of the best shooters ever at BYU. And they're like,
Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
We go, okay.
ESPN ranks Jimmer number 24 among the top 25 college basketball players in the last 25 years. Where would you rank him? Last 25 years, top 25 players. They got him at 24. There's a lot of great players that have come and gone.
Yeah, really.
Jimmer in his day was the best in the country.
Yeah, he's the
Won
National
the
Player of the
Wooden
Year.
Award. What do you think? Where would he fit? Where would you put him in your top 25?
There's so many amazing players. I think anybody that makes it in the top 25, that'd be an honor. So I'm okay about that.
Okay, at 24.
Yeah.
Our pleasure to have Sherry Dew on the Wise Guys tonight, former second counselor in the General Relief Society presidency of the church, and has written more books than anybody we know. How many books have you written?
I don't know.
You don't even know.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
I
And the last thing
I
this
saw
world
at
needs
least
is
30.
No.
I
no.
think I saw at least 30.
No.
Because
not
I
even
looked up
close.
on your page and there was like
no.
volumes.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Volumes. How hard is it to write a book?
Horrible.
Is the
The
hardest
world's-
thing to come up with an idea or then to take an idea and make it like,
Yeah.
30 chapters?
Yeah, yes, just horrible. These people that say they just live to write and they can't wait to write, I go, yeah, I've never experienced that. It's torture. It's torture. It's really hard.
Well, listen,
My-
you've tortured yourself a whole lot.
I looked
know.
at that. I looked at that
I
whole
know.
list, and I'm looking for.
Yeah, whatever.
And my favorite title was, "If life were easy,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be hard,"
Yeah.
and other reassuring truths. I'm like, now that title just makes me go, yeah, I gotta read that one.
Yeah,
I have to read that one.
There's another one had to do with the line between North and South Korea as to which side of the line.
That's the name of a talk.
That's the name of a talk, but could have been a book.
I can't remember
Which side of the line, but it had to do with...
the Lord's side of the line. Living on the Lord's side of the
That's
line.
right.
That's what it was.
That was a good one. I was looking at titles and how they might apply to football, and a couple of those came up.
You it's interesting that you say it's a miserable experience for you, yet so you worked your way up. Like, as I'm looking through your career track, you've held every job in publishing. I mean, you started as an assistant editor, and you have just worked your way up through to where now you run the whole thing.
You just learn.
And you have to encourage writers, though.
Yeah.
You can't tell them it's miserable. This is a terrible experience. I don't know why you want to even do it, right?
No.
It's just not for you. But it is for some people. How do you encourage them, and how do you get the most out of them as you help them write?
So here's what I do. Here's why I do care about it. I care about communicating. I think communicating is really awesome. What you do is really awesome. You're communicating. And while you two are talking about sports, which is something that a whole bunch of us really love, you're also communicating without banging in somebody up the side of the head with a skillet. You're communicating values and things that are important and all this sort of thing. So to me, that's what you're doing when you're the most important work I've done in publishing is helping other people. It's stuff you'll never know.
Yeah.
It's authors that I've worked with and helped bring out the best in them to say, what do you have to say, and let's help you communicate your message. Now, that I like. That I care about.
Now, I have a book coming out with Deseret Book at Christmas time on My ABCs with BYU. It's a kid's book. And I'll tell you how it came about. I was reading ABC books with my grandkids, and I thought, why isn't there they're Utah State fans up there, and why isn't there a BYU book? And I searched out. I was on a morning walk, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put one together. And I came home, and I told Diane, my wife over there, and I said, you know what, I want to put a book together. I'm going to send a text to Sherry Dew and see if she thinks it's a good idea. And Diane was like, yeah, right. Like, Sherry Dew's going to answer you. And
Your husband's a big deal. That's
and
why.
So I sent it, and like 2 minutes later, ding, and it's Sherry. She goes, "Great idea. I'll buy the first 20." And I just took the phone over and I just handed it to Diane, and I said, "Richard, read this," and then it was on. But
I'll buy the first 20 if you'll sign them.
You got it. But it was the when you said you encourage. There's such a big difference between encouraging and discouraging because no one really knows how to do it. But when you hear from someone who does, that says,
That's a
I
good
think
idea.
we got something here. And then all of a sudden we go and do the work and it happens. And so I'm an example of what you just brought up, that your encouragement to people, whether it's book writing or in any of your talks or books or any of that stuff, is significant in the lives of many.
You just want to help people maximize their talent and build it. And to me, that's the best part. That's the part I like the most.
Did you help Steve with this new book that he wrote about love, Steve Young? I know you guys published it, but
yeah, it's, the president of Desert Book, who is Laurel Day, reports to me, and she and I worked with Steve. Steve reached out to me first. I've known Steve for a long time. He said, "Hey, I've got an idea. What do you think?" And it was that sort of thing. He said, "I'm going to send you." So he sent me a couple of chapters, and I read the chapter and said, "Yeah, there's something here. This
so
is
good.
really powerful." So then again, it's a privilege to work back and forth and talk about, okay, how about a little bit more of this? What do you think about that? And that's the role. That's the role an editor plays. It's the role a publisher plays. Is trying to help you to pull out of you the best that's in you, because nobody can do it all by themselves. You need someone else to say. I mean, I have the people I turn to, that if I'm working on something, I'll send it to them and say, this is.
Someone's looked at you and said, "Sherry, that's a bad idea." Has that ever happened?
Oh, yeah.
they say, I have no idea why you're excited about this, Sherry. You need to shut this down.
This is the best line from my very dearest friend, whom I trust implicitly, and she said, "This wouldn't even make a good gospel doctrine lesson. Start over." And I told her, "It's not ready for anybody to read." No, I said, "I'm sure it's better than you say it is." Nope, it's not better than you said it is. It would make a pretty snoozy gospel doctrine lesson. You got a ways to go. So you want somebody like that who will tell you,
Right.
"Yeah, no, this isn't cutting it yet. Keep going."
That's what Dave and I do for each other.
Yeah. We'll say that tie. No.
I'm his
do that
biggest
tie.
fan on writing, though. And what people don't realize is that being in broadcast journalism is part of that term, right? And so Dave, over the years, has had to write so many scripts for the shows that we do, and now writing with the Deseret News, like we always talk, and I always brag about, he's a great writer, and I see all the other writing that he does over 30 years plus that we've worked together, and you can't do this job without being able to write.
Yeah.
Writing is so important.
And
he's
tell
phenomenal
people
at
that BYU wouldn't win the national championship without Blaine. So we
So
go
it's
support
back
each other.
and forth.
Works out, which is true,
We
right?
support
It's
each
true.
other. Tell me if I cheated, though, on Steve's book. So my son-in-law, Dallas, Libby's husband, you met Libby a couple weeks ago. He read the book, and Dallas and Libby lived with Steve and Barb for a while, and so he read the book. He said, "This book is phenomenal." So he sent it out to Brenda and I to read, and I said, "Well, I have to see if I'm going to read this." And he had all kinds of notes and things, like all through the chapters and all in the margins. So I first went through and read all of his notes, all of Dallas's notes, and then I thought, "Oh man, this is really something." So now I'm starting over and I'm going to read the whole book. Was that cheating?
No.
It's okay to do that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fascinating, in fact,
Yeah.
right?
I want to see his perspective.
Yeah.
What he took out of it. Now I'm going to read it and see if I get any other nuggets out of it. Other
Which
than
you
what-
will.
Yeah. Oh, I'm certain I will.
You're in
So-
a different place in your life. You're in a different life
Yeah.
stage, and you'll see different stuff.
Well, we're going to get Steve on here in a couple weeks. I got to give Steve a call and get him on. We want to talk about that book. It's fun. If you haven't read it, folks out there, his latest book is really special. That's a great
It's
book.
very special. Yeah.
Shout out to Lynn watching in Hiram, Utah, DF down in St. George, and we're all over the world tonight on Wise Guys. A few more questions with Sherry Dew, and then she's going to reveal her top 5 BYU sports moments of all time. So we're looking forward to that here in just a moment. You've been the authorized biographer for President Ezra Taft Benson, President Gordon B. Hinckley, current church prophet President Russell M. Nelson. Is there a thread of similarity between those three men in or out of their church service? And if so, what is it? Because they were very different in their professional lives.
Yeah, really great question. Very different individuals, very different life experiences. I would say the thread that is absolutely the same is that in retrospect, by the time you start to work on a biography of a prophet, a man who's become a prophet, there's a lot of years that you have to look at. And I'd say the thread that is absolutely the same is that you can see the Lord's hand in their lives. Hands down. You're not making it up. It's just so obvious that they've been tutored and prepared, and they've learned, and tutored and prepared, and they've learned, and prepared them for the day when they're called to the quorum of the 12 first, and then the tutoring continues, and they keep learning, and they keep experiencing until that day comes that they become the senior apostle. But you can see the Lord, it's like he has been their personal schoolmaster. I'd say that is the same, absolutely. You also see a thread of faith. They all have faith. They believe in God, they believe in Jesus, they believe that God and his Son will overrule for their good. You see faith. It's demonstrated different ways, but that's what you see.
Interesting.
You know, one of your popular quotes comes from your background of growing up on a farm, which I can appreciate. I'm a New York kid. I married a farm girl. We took the farm over for a week while the family went to Lake Powell, and we didn't have any money. Yikes.
Yeah, you're right.
I didn't know the chickens didn't want to give up the eggs.
You just thought they just say, hey, here you go.
No, Brenda sent me out to get the eggs. I took a big basket. I went out. Every time I reached up, they tried to peck my hand. I came back.
They just welcomed
I was
you,
like,
right?
She goes, what are you doing? I said, there's no eggs.
It's not like Easter morning.
She goes, did you get them out from under the chickens and the hens? And I said, well, they obviously didn't want to give up the eggs today. And she goes, get back out there and get those. And I took my watering turns. I had to go move the pipe. You did all of that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You moved irrigation pipe in the
Yeah.
middle of the night. You drove a tractor before
Yeah.
you drove a car. Your saying is you reap what you sow. It's a farm saying. It applies to life. It also screams volumes about sports, right? So tell us a little bit about that quote and the origin of that and why that's an important quote to you.
Well, you've got it's scriptural for starters, but when you grow up on a farm, you see it. You kind of go, oh, yeah, I get this. A farmer can't hide in a cubicle on the 5th floor and hope that nobody realizes he's not very smart. You either plant the seed or you don't. You either water it and nurture it or you don't. So you kind of see it playing out, right? And I think it has huge bearing on sports. So maybe a story that may not seem to relate, but I think it does. A few years ago, I had a knee replaced, and it's kind of a little bit of a grueling thing getting everything working again. And so I had a fabulous therapist. I mean, she was brutal, but she was so good. And one day she was telling me, "Sure, you're doing great. You're really progressing. Everything's going great. You're ahead of schedule. You're just doing great. And you're working so hard." And I said, "Well, who would go through this and not work hard to get their knee working again? Why would you go through the whole thing?" And she said, "You'd be surprised." So about how hard it is to get certain people to do the therapy and everything. And I said, "Well, have you learned anything as a therapist about what helps some people do it and others just won't go through it?" And she said, "Sports." She said, "I've decided it's sports. If you've competed in competitive sports, or if you've trained for a marathon or a half marathon or something, you know that it's going to hurt by the 4th quarter, and it's okay. It's going to hurt, and you keep going. You don't stop because you are gassed when it's 5 minutes left and the game's on the line. You keep going." And she said, "I've decided that people who have had the discipline of sports, they'll always do the therapy they need to get a replaced limb or whatever working again." And I thought, isn't that interesting? To me, that is reap what you sow. You can see it. You can feel it.
I had a mission companion who didn't grow up with sports at all. And it was night and day with his ability to get along with people, as opposed to my other companions who played baseball or softball or basketball or football, where it was a team concept of I can't win by myself. And I was it was like we came from a different planet and just saw things differently. And the McCanns all grew up in sports because my mom didn't want us to tear up the house, so we were doing something. But I was surprised at how noticeable it was in just people skills.
It's the thing. That's why I'm just so not only do I just love it, but I don't know if that's nature or nurture or both, but I just do. But I think the payoff for sports is huge. If I had, I always hoped I would have 6 boys. That's what I dreamed of, was having a team and a spare, a sub, right?
There has to be a sixth man. You have to have a sixth man.
No, you
That's
got to have
right.
a sixth man. And man, I would have had him sports like crazy because I just think you can learn a lot, including how you lose gracefully,
Yeah.
how you
Yeah.
handle it when you don't win.
Because you lose more than you win.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're the last team standing.
You've got there's always going to be hurdles put in your way. You're going to fail. You've got to grind through failure. I feel like one of the toughest things to do in sports is to play corner, because you go out there and you're out on an island and you're covering one of the most gifted players on the other team at wide receiver, and he's going to run by you, and you're going to make a mistake, and he's going to catch a touchdown, and you have to go, well, that was an aberration. That's never going to happen again. What do I learn from that? And all I can do is think about it for about 20 seconds. I need to do this next time I do that. And then you have to move forward and grind through it.
Or else they will throw another one.
They'll come right back at you. If you're dwelling on it, they will come right back at you again and again and again. And you know, when in the olden days, before we played with helmets and everything, when I was playing,
right,
we had Norm Chow and we had Mike Holmgren and Andy Reid with us. And if they found the guy out there on the defense that couldn't do that couldn't put it behind him and move forward and learn from it, they would be relentless. They would figure out ways to get in a different formation and to just attack him over and over and over again, and we would just isolate him and pick on him. So the poor guy probably never wanted to play.
So it wasn't very nice, but it was effective.
Yeah, but
I love that.
Yeah. So you've got to be able to step up. Hey, my beautiful wife, Mimi B. Fowler, by the way, is Brenda. She just says, awesome lessons from the farm, and they tie perfectly with sports 100%, speaking my language. Because Brenda grew up on a farm with Hereford cows and hay fields, and so she's loving that we're talking farms and sports.
A shout out to John from Camp Verde, Arizona, in with us tonight. This is a fun show because it's a live stream where people can join us. If they got Wi-Fi, they can join the show, and we've had a good time doing it. Before we get to your 5 moments, you grew up on a farm in Kansas. We've established that. When I think of a farm in Kansas, I think of Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Sure.
So did you ever have any tornadoes you ran from growing up?
Every year we had tornado warnings and tornado watches. And at the moment, I can't remember which is more severe, the warning or the watch, but a lot of scary weather. We never lost any crops, but neighbors did.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, these farms are big. They're thousands of acres. And so a tornado can go by and strip somebody that's not terribly far away, but leave you untouched. So certainly no tornado weather, and have seen the aftermath. Never was in the direct path of a tornado, but in the weather, yeah, and it's scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate that we live in a place. Like I grew up in New York. We don't have earthquakes. They don't have tornadoes. I moved to Utah. They always threaten about, I mean, at some point we're going to have an earthquake. And we have some small ones, but they don't seem like it's San Francisco level. And tornadoes are rare around here. I feel like I've been really blessed because I worked for a company that was based in Kansas City, and we had multiple warnings. It scares the heck out of you.
It's scary.
Yeah.
You
It's
feel
really scary.
helpless. You know?
It was really common for my, in the middle of the night, for my mom to come and wake me up. I had a bedroom on the main floor, and my parents had a bedroom on the main floor, and then my siblings slept downstairs in their bedrooms. And it was not unusual for my mother to come and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Sherry, get your pillow and go downstairs." "Mom, are we having a tornado?" You know, there's this immediate reaction. Just get your pillow and go downstairs. So you learn what to do. Now, a tornado is survivable.
Right.
If you know what to do.
If you do the right things.
If you do the right things, you're going to survive every time. But it's scary.
Yeah.
All right. How many years have you been attending or watching BYU Sports?
So here's the funny thing. The other day I was in a group talking about BYU Sports again, and I said, "Man, I've been watching this for 40 years." And one of my colleagues said, "Actually, you've been watching this for 50 years.
What?
And it's true.
What kind of colleague is that?
What kind of colleague
Who
is
calls
that?
you out on that?
All right, so we have multiple
50-ish
decades.
years. Yes,
multiple
we do.
decades.
Yeah.
Let's roll out your top 5 BYU sports moments of all time.
Are sports moments or sports moments I witnessed?
Let's go with witnessed.
Yeah,
let's go with
the ones
witnessed,
that you
because I think
witnessed.
that's when I sing
would you
that
rather
note.
start? Would you rather start with 1 and go to 5, or do you want to go in reverse order from 5
Witnessed anyway, in person or on.
Yeah, let's go either or.
Yeah, television or in person. Favorite BYU sports moments?
Okay, well, let's see. Well, the number one BYU sports moment.
We're going right to number 1?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
let's do that. It's easiest.
All right.
It's easiest. I
it
agree.
has to be Danny Ainge, 8 seconds Notre Dame.
Oh.
Has to be.
When you mentioned earlier about winning and what the national championship did for BYU, just think of what that one basket did for BYU. For
Wow.
Ainge, for the Cougars, for all of that stuff. And that happened, 3 seasons before Blaine's team went undefeated.
Then the next thing has to be the 84 team. I mean the national championship team.
84
And there's
team.
all those things that happen, including the Holiday Bowl where Robbie gets injured, and I'm embarrassed that I forgot it was you that came in.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Hey,
I'll repent. I'm repentant.
Sure, I'm just a footnote.
Well,
just a
what I
footnote on
remember
history.
is that he got injured. You just
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
well, he got injured. So that year was like magical.
Right. About the Morel's leap over the Hawaii line.
I just watched that the other day. I dialed
Yeah.
it up, and that's incredible. The most incredible timing you've ever seen in a play,
And
right?
he when we talked to him after the game, there's 2 funny stories about that. First, Dave Neff, who was in at middle linebacker on the play, he and the other middle backer, Kerry Whittingham, said, Kyle's little brother, we're just going to crawl under and we're going to grab the guy's legs. And they crawled under. They weren't sure what they grabbed. And then they heard this giant roar, and they thought they made the play. So then they got up from below the pile, and they ran over the sideline, and everybody's high-fiving, and everybody's like, did you see that? Did you see that? They're like, yeah, we made the play. And they're like, no, Kyle jumped over the top of the pile and made the play. And like,
And those
oh.
were BYU fans.
So for a moment, they thought they made the play. And then I talked to Kyle after the game, and I'm like, what were you thinking? He was actually more calculated than people give him credit for. He's like, well, I thought to myself, they're on the 6-inch line. So I'm just going to go on the first sound. And I'm just going to guess that they're going to call it on 1. Because if they go on 2 and I'm offsides, it's going to be a 3-inch penalty. I might as well take a chance here. So I'm going to go on the first sound. That's how he timed it out. So it wasn't an accident
Wow.
that he had that timing. He
amazing.
actually thoughtfully, we talk about guys that have a presence in a game, and we talk about situational awareness. Great quarterbacks know, can't take a sack in 2-minute offense. I can't do this. Got to do this. This is the kind of play I have to make. In that situation, that's about as big time a situational awareness as you'll ever hear of in a game. And Lavelle
Incredible.
told me multiple times it's the best defensive play he's ever seen in football. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
That was a big play. So that preserved the national championship.
All right, number 3.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with beating number 1 Miami.
Oh, I love
Ty
that.
Datmer. I mean, that was.
Were you in the stadium that
I
night?
was, and it was amazing.
Electric.
It was electric.
I called that game. It was electric.
It was just wow.
Okay.
Then I think I
Are
got.
you linking that to the Heisman, too? Are you linking those 2 together?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah,
Dave and I were there
yeah,
for the
probably.
Heisman announcement in
Yeah.
Hawaii.
That was nuts.
Terrible game afterwards.
Yeah,
but
terrible game.
Yeah.
Holy cow, what happened there? But anyway, that game was amazing. Number 1 team in the country. I mean, that was amazing.
Not only that, they were the hot dogs. They were
Yeah.
the cockiest team in America.
Russell Maryland's still mad about it. by
All
the way.
that stuff.
I saw him at a thing. He's still mad about it.
And The Rock was injured and didn't play, but he was on the team.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson was on that team. The Rock.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He played the next week.
Yeah.
He didn't play in that game.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing.
I didn't know that.
That team, that Miami team.
I forgot that.
So we go out in '84 and we win that opener against number 2 Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh had a bunch of injuries that year, and they ended up like 6-5.
Right.
That Miami team played in the Cotton Bowl and finished like number 3 in the country that year.
Then they
That
won
was-
it the next year.
and won the national championship the next year. So that was a legit. That's
That's a
legit.
legit
The
win.
best team that BYU's ever beaten, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
any sport.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, number 4.
Okay, I think I got to go with. Remember when would this have been? Remember when San Diego State was number 4 and BYU had just crossed into the top 10 and they were like number 9?
Yeah,
Yes.
They came to the Marriott Center.
and Jimmer going at each other.
Yeah. And then we beat them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I got to go with that one next. The Marriott Center that night was wow.
Yeah, that was
Jimmer
was
had
a
like
s-
30 something.
Yeah, it was like a spiritual experience. Come on.
Yeah.
that was off the charts.
Yeah.
That was these recent wins against Gonzaga have been pretty big, but none matches that game.
That was that
And then
game
they
was,
went down to San Diego and did it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then they got him in the finals of the tournament.
Yeah.
But that was after Jimmer just went off for 51 in the semis against New Mexico with only one free throw attempt.
Yeah.
That was a season for the ages. That
Yeah.
whole season. So I go with you on that. I like that one.
And then the last one, I don't want to pick a moment. I want to pick okay. I came as a freshman to BYU in 1971 and watched Krešimir Ćosić play.
yes.
And watching Ćosić play in any game was like magic. He was, he didn't play. I wish I could go back and I probably could find some things and go watch him play. I don't remember him being a power player. I remember him being a more finesse player. You got this skinny 6'11" guy who could do things with his body that were sort of like, what did he just do? Show me that again. I mean, so to me, I'm going to lump him and say it was watching in person over and over again Krešimir Ćosić play basketball.
I love
He
that.
was amazing.
Yeah.
I love that because people don't recognize what a great contribution, and he made huge contributions to the game of basketball over in his homeland.
Yeah, he did. And he pushed BYU forward, I feel like,
yeah.
and kind of set it up for Ainge in a way.
I remember
Yeah.
Billy Packer of CBS saying that he was the most influential foreign athlete to start the whole movement of foreign kids coming to play basketball.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really
Which is
cool.
true.
I mean, think about the best player in the NBA this last year,
Yeah.
Jokic.
Jokic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's where's
Coming
he
from
from?
Serbia.
Yeah. Which is right there.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Those
there,
are great moments. Those
so
are great.
watching, I mean, growing up watching KU basketball, which was pretty elite basketball, but it didn't feel like there was a drop off watching Ćosić play. I came and said, that guy's as good as KU.
Wow.
What's
Now,
it going to be?
I don't know if he was or not, but I
We
felt
didn't
like
get to
he
watch
was.
him, and
No.
But I talked to Liddell Anderson.
This is my
about,
age speaking.
No, I've talked to Liddell Anderson about him, and Roger Reed and Frank Arnold and all those. And when they talk about him, they say, "Oh, he was like a work of art in
No.
basketball.
Yeah.
The way he would around the back pass and his ball handling skills and his no look, like they say, he was
Unbelievable.
20 years ahead of the game for." He played like the big guys in the NBA,
Yeah.
like Jokic and these guys, and Doncic. These guys that are big guys that are skilled. He was way ahead of
Phenomenal finesse.
Yeah.
No, he handled the ball like a guard.
his time. Yeah.
And I'd never seen that. I thought I'd never seen a big guy be able to do that. So
Yeah.
he blew me away.
And what a great representative of the university, and the
Not a member.
no, but
At the time.
he
Right.
represented
An atheist,
over
remember? Self-proclaimed atheist when he showed up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
behind what then was the Iron Curtain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In communist countries, he was well known. So
But
it-
he was a wow. He was a wow for me.
I love that.
What's it going to be like for you when you're going to have to be sitting with President Reese on that row when the Cougars come out over here and the Jayhawks come out over here this winter in a basketball game in Provo? What's that going to be like for you?
Have to root for the Cougars.
Yeah.
I think it will be awesome. I can't imagine the Jayhawks. We haven't seen the schedule yet, right?
No,
So
not
we don't know.
not
conference.
for basketball yet.
Yeah. So I can't imagine watching them and looking across, and there's Bill Self, one of the great coaches
Yeah.
of all time.
Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be amazing.
What about football? We do have the schedule for football. Is there a game on that football schedule that you've looked at and you think, oh, I can't wait for that game this fall?
Well, there's several of them. I mean, most of the schedule. But honestly, look, KU's never been squat in football, but I'm so tempted to go to KU just to go to KU to watch it, right?
And they got a little. They went 6 and 7
and their
last year.
quarterback
A little
got
better.
hurt. They were on a
Yeah.
roll. Their quarterback got hurt. He's back. They're going to
That's
not
going to be a
bad.
hard game.
Yeah, they throw it around.
I think they'll all be hard games, but I'm kind of optimistic about our football team. Actually,
Yeah.
I think listening to you guys earlier talking about where could they go, they might do better than everybody is thinking in this first year. So I'm kind of just looking forward to the whole thing, the whole ride.
It's going to be
Nice.
fun. Going to be fun.
It's when we ask people the two easy ones. Hey, Oklahoma's coming here. We're going to Texas. Everybody loves those two. I'm like, they're leaving the league. I'm taking Oklahoma State on the road because they're going to be
Okay.
a league rival.
Yeah, they are.
And I kind of like Arkansas on the road too, even though it's not a league game because
That'll be a great game.
We got some
though.
paybacks from last year, and I think we got some surprises.
I'm going with
in store for him.
Texas. I served my mission
He
down
served
there.
his mission there, so he's always
and all that stuff.
And it's 110,000 people. It's kind of a cool environment.
And you guys are telling me that Keaton Slovis is the real deal.
He appears to be. We'll see.
I keep saying this. If the Keaton Slovis mindset that played his first 2 years at USC, if they can get that back, because he's kind of been through it with coaches and some of this stuff, and their whole thing is he can make every throw. Like, he is an NFL skill set. Like, big time. He's a big kid that can throw it all over. He's way more athletic than people give him credit for. He played with confidence. Remember we talked about confidence his first 2 years. He was the best offensive player in the Pac-12 for 2 years, freshman and sophomore year. And then things changed. He went to Pittsburgh, and the offensive coordinator left. And
his receiver went to USC,
and then,
of all things.
And he just had no weapons around him. They were running 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He was really frustrated, and he was miserable because it was cloudy and gray every day in Pittsburgh. And he is so excited.
And they still went 8-4.
If he can get his mental, and everything in spring ball points to this, he's big time. He's a draftable NFL guy. And if he can be that, then BYU wins more games than everybody thinks.
And didn't he just hit a drive 340 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he won the long drive. He
Yeah.
killed it. He's a big, strong kid.
The wind must have not been blown in his face like it was
Sherry,
for us.
He is a heck of a nice kid, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think
He looks like it. He looks, I think he's as great a kid as he looks
we get
like.
to talk to him quite a bit. Like, he is so grateful to be here. And he has bought so much into the culture here. Just completely supports it. He says, I grew up around a lot of LDS kids in Scottsdale, and I have lots of friends. Like, I love this culture. We're focused on football, and we're going to have so much fun. And he didn't come in and act like a star. He came in, got in line for every single drill, first one in the weight room, last one out of the weight room, throwing extra throws all the time, in the film room, bringing guys together and getting in the film room.
So he's a leader.
He just gets
So he's
it.
a leader.
He gets that you don't say something just because you were one of the top quarterbacks in the country a few years ago. You come in and you show everybody that you're all in. He's done that in a big
character.
way. Yeah.
That's character.
And Jaron Hall has 9 starts against P5 teams, and Slovis comes in with 34.
Yeah.
So that's experience
wow.
too. That's everything going into Lawrence and going into Austin and having Oklahoma come here. So it all looks great on paper, and he's been a pleasure to be
excited.
around.
He's been such a good. He makes you meet him, you visit with him a few times. You're like, oh, I really want to root for this kid. It makes you want to root for him. He's the kind of kid you can really root around. So
Glenn writes in, I was a freshman in 72, Lavelle's first year, Kosic in the house, Gifford Nielsen over at Provo High. That was a special time.
was a good
wasn't it?
It was a special time.
All right, let's get you out of here with the 5 fastest questions of the night. We get to ask all our guests these. They're very revealing. They require little thought.
Okay, good.
Moving
But you're
forward.
supposed to just say the first thing that comes to your
Okay.
mind. That's how we do this. So we're going to
Okay.
start with your favorite sports movie.
Remember the Titans.
All right.
We just went over to the stadium the other night and watched it on the big screen. On movie night at Lavelle Oakwood Stadium. It was pretty cool.
Our youngest Gavin that coaches the safeties at BYU, that's his. It's either that or Rudy for me.
Yeah.
So-
Rudy's good too.
Favorite singer or band?
Oh, man.
You can go old school here if you
Can
want.
I go old school?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, a little tidbit. Sherry traveled and actually has musical talent, plays the piano, and you was it 3 USO tours that you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is pretty cool.
Where would I
adds
be
to their
on
star
this?
power.
Alaska, Europe, and the Mediterranean and Asia.
Man, I can't believe you know that.
You were off on USO tours,
Yeah.
and you were playing piano on those,
I
right?
was.
Were you taking requests or did you go out with a set list?
Both.
Yeah?
We bought
Yeah.
set list and we took requests.
Nice.
Sherry's a Renaissance woman.
Yeah.
Like, she really is. Like, it's not just sports, she's sports and the arts, which I love. So, okay, so back
Singer
to
or band?
favorite singer or band.
Oh, man. I can't do a favorite. My tastes are so eclectic. So
what was it
would
in
I
high school? What was in high school?
If you go clear back to high school, you're going back to Three Dog Night.
Nothing wrong with Three
Nothing
Dog
wrong
Night.
with it. You can still listen to them on the
Okay,
air.
probably the
must
favorite.
come down.
Yeah, probably what has to be the favorite is probably the Beach Boys.
Beach Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, still.
Elvis, not Elvis, huh? Beach Boys?
No.
I'm going to tell her
I'm a little
I'm going to tell
past-
Sherry who you like.
I'm a little past Elvis, yeah.
She probably knows.
AC/DC.
Yeah, well, yeah, I get it. Chicago.
Chicago's a
Yeah.
classic.
Chicago is.
Def Leppard's great.
Chicago never gets old.
How about Journey? They're at Stadium
Journey,
Fire.
Journey's cool.
Yeah, and they're at
They're
Stadium
gonna be
Fire
great.
this week. We're
Yeah.
excited about
Be
that.
like
I
a
love Journey.
45,000 member sing along.
Yeah.
on
When
Saturday
I
night.
was changing clothes after work to get up here, I was listening to Maroon 5.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm very like it depends on the day for me.
Yeah.
You know.
So we got a tie between Three Dog Night and Beach Boys?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the Beach Boys.
Okay,
It's
we'll go
probably a
Beach
tie
Boys.
between the Beach Boys and Chicago.
Chicago.
So okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, your favorite breakfast cereal?
We've run the gamut on
Hey,
this.
Scott Warner got us going on this. The founder
Honey
of
Nut
Gig.
Cheerios.
Honey Nut.
That's a
All right.
good one. We make fun of people that don't have any sugar on their cereal.
No. It has
The
to
Van
have-
Noys feed their
Yeah,
kids
Kyle and Marissa.
protein shakes.
I said, and you
Like-
actually came on the show and said that you give your kids
How
protein
do you
shakes.
start the
in
day with a
morning? Come on.
protein shake?
It's like not
Oh,
right.
my wife does, sorry.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I know Diane does.
Favorite
too.
ice cream?
pralines and cream.
Nice.
Pralines and cream. Okay, now here's a tough one. This is the grand finale.
Your favorite BYU quarterback of all time?
Blaine Fowler.
No, you can't say Blaine Fowler.
Great
that
answer.
one's too easy.
Do the balloons come down if you say that?
No, that's not. He's not an option. He's
In the
not an
event
option.
that it was someone other than Blaine,
Yeah,
Who would it be?
Yeah.
who would it be? Because you've had all the
man,
legends.
but how do you do that?
So here's the like. It's
How do
like
you
it's
do
like when
that?
I
You
ask
just-
Brenda.
you
I
just
always
do
say,
it.
Brenda, who do you think's the handsomest man in the world? And other than me, other than me.
I mean, how do you do that? How do you choose between Steve and Taysom and
You just come out
And
cold.
Ty
You
and-
come out
Who was the
cold-blooded.
first one that came to your mind? Who's
Steve.
Steve.
Steve, yeah, that's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, and hey, there's not a lot of people going to argue with you over Steve.
Plus,
And you've worked with Steve a lot
yeah,
since.
you've written books and all that stuff. So
Here's what we always
you-
say about Steve: is he the greatest? While he was at BYU, he's one of the greatest. He's one of the top three
One
for
of,
sure.
one of.
But clearly,
you
his,
add on the NFL.
his professional career, he's the greatest football player in the history of BYU. He's a Hall of Famer in the National
Yeah.
Football League,
Yeah.
and one of the most visible
Hall of
athletes
Famer,
in the history
MVP.
of BYU.
I mean,
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Steve.
yeah,
And we both know him really well, and he's one of the best humans we know.
he's a fabulous human.
Yep.
you could have went with Ty. You could have just gone down the list.
Yep.
But Steve's a great choice.
Yep. We'll go with Steve.
I love all those guys. I mean,
Yeah.
they've brought a lot of joy to a lot of people.
You can find everything that Sherry Dew has written at DeseretBook.com. All 31 books. Maybe more. It's like Baskin Robbins down there.
Yeah.
A flavor for every
You're
book.
nuts.
My next after I read Steve's book on love, now that I've read the Cliff Notes from Dallas, I'm gonna go find If Life Were Easy, It Wouldn't Be Hard, and Other Reassuring Truths.
Yeah.
And that's from back in 2005.
That's a long time ago.
From 2005. So,
You're-
but I
you're-
think it would still apply today, right?
Your walk-off parting advice to somebody who would like to write a book about their life, not just a journal, but to write a book,
About their life.
or their life, or something that
Or
they
something
found
that means something
fascinating,
to them.
something that means something to them. Your advice is what?
Think about how you would talk about what you care about in a way that's fresh and that somebody else would care about. You have, look, it doesn't matter what you do unless it means something to someone else. The best toothpaste in the world doesn't help anybody if it doesn't come off the shelf. So you got to think about if you, Dave and Blaine, are the audience, what will make you care about it? If you only write from your point of view about what I care about, nobody else cares.
You know what that means to us? That means have Sherry Dew on your show.
No, you're
Yeah,
funny.
that's right.
Thank you for
That's
the
right.
Thank you
privilege.
so much for being here.
You guys are so nice to invite me.
You're
Thank
the
you
best.
so much.
We literally have been pubbing this for like ever since you agreed to come
And you
on.
know,
You
and
guys
people
gotta
go,
get
"What?
out more."
Sherry Dew's coming on your show?" Yes,
And
she is.
people stopped me today in the gym and said, "Is Sherry Dew coming on tonight?" And I go, "Tonight's the night."
And then our
You're so
podcast will be
funny.
up tomorrow, and there'll be clips all over. And
Yep.
we just one, we enjoy you, and we enjoy your insight, and you're important to us, and so it's a pleasure to have
Thank
you here.
you. You're so kind. This was an honor to be with you guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it so much.
And will you find a date with Diane so we can do dinner?
I
here
would love
coming
it.
up?
Wait, Brendan,
Deal.
did Brendan
Deal.
get to come do
Deal.
that with you guys?
Absolutely.
Deal.
Yeah, let's go do
Absolutely.
this.
Deal.
Okay,
Let's go
that's
do
the
this.
assignment on the way out.
Okay.
We kept you way too long. We'll let you go.
Thanks, guys.
We're
Thanks
grateful.
so
you.
much.
Thanks, Sherry.
The
So
great
great
Sherry
to see
Dew
you.
here
Go
on the Wise
Cougars.
Guys.
Yeah, go Cougs.
We'll see you at the stadium this fall.
Count on it.
All right. How about that? Coming up.
So fun.
Next week's July 4th, we'll have a Star-Spangled Banner performance there. Lee Kamard will be on the show July 11th. He's the women's basketball associate head coach. Mitch Matthews, July 18th. Steve Clark, tight end coach, July 25th, also working for Jen Rockwood to be with us on that night. And then we'll get into August with some big names.
Yeah, so I'm going to call Steve. I'll put him on notice right now. I'm going to call Steve Young, especially now that we know that he's Sherry Dew's favorite quarterback of all time.
That's right. We can use that.
And I'm because I would really like to have Steve in August as we're getting ready for not only BYU into the Big 12, but also the NFL season with all these guys. Because I want to get Steve's take on this transition for BYU, and I also want him to talk us through the Zach Wilson situation. And so my commitment to everybody is I'll get with Steve and see where we can get him in August.
Jamal Willis is confirmed for August 8th, and Tom Homo is confirmed for August 15th. And the games start just a couple weeks after that. So we got
stuff.
Big things coming for Wise Guys and our guests. None bigger than Sherry Dew. I think that's just awesome. One, that she said she would come on. Two, that she said she'd drive down to Salt Lake to be on.
Yeah.
And then she was on for an hour with us.
Yeah. No, she's the best, and she's been changing lots of people's lives for the better. So whenever you're around Sherry, you want to be a better person, which is awesome. So.
And the next time you're on the cereal aisle, Honey Nut Cheerios.
I like Honey Nut Cheerios.
That's her favorite.
I have to say, for dinner, because I always...
We're going to talk about you for a long time
Sherry,
after you go, so just know that.
Before I come... I always come from work, because I was up in Salt Lake City at work today, and I always come down, and I just grab a bowl of cereal before I come to the show. So I want everybody to know, today I did have Frosted Flakes before I came.
I had Captain Crunch, so that's the kind of high quality guys.
We do not eat healthy cereal at this show.
Some more headlines we want to jump to on this extraordinary Wise Guys tonight, and a lot of great comments on our live stream. Thank you so much. Everyone loving that interview with Sherry Dew. The highest ranked Big 12 corners, according to Pro Football Focus College, their Twitter site. They rolled that out this week, and it's just, when you see a BYU corner there in the top 5, your eyes just go, whoa.
Well, yeah.
We haven't had a chance to see this kid, the top 5.
So number 1 is TJ Tampa from Iowa State. Really good, high draft pick. Number 2 is Josh Newton at TCU. You saw him in the national championship game last year. And coming in at number 3 is Eddie Heckard, BYU, the transfer from Weber State.
How about that?
Well, and think about it. Eddie was an NFL prospect this last year. And he could have gone out and either be a late pick or be a free agent, right? And it didn't have anything to do with the skill set. It had to do with the level of competition he played against. He's very skilled. He's very smart. I've had a chance to really kind of dig in and watch him during spring ball. And, hey, we got to give a credit. Maybe the best recruiting job done this offseason was Jay Hill saying to Eddie, listen, yeah, you can go out, probably make a team. But why don't you come down here and step it up and play in the Big 12? Because I have every confidence that you can showcase against some of the best receivers in the country how good you are and improve your draft stock. And Eddie said, I love that challenge. Let's bring it on. I'm coming down to BYU, and I'm going to anchor that corner. And, hey, Pro Football Focus looks at him. They know his body of work over the last 3 years, and they've got him the number 3 corner in the Big 12.
That's fantastic.
And I even know what he's doing today. He's playing golf at Hobble Creek.
Good for him.
How do I know that? Because he's playing with Gavin today.
There you go. BYU volleyball news. Sophomore Luke Benson been named to the USA Volleyball Collegiate National Team. He's going to train with the national squad, July 2nd through the 8th in Anaheim. He's 6'7", an outside hitter, one of 21 kids named to the squad. Team coached by former Cougar coach Chris McGowan. Yeah. So great opportunity to get in there and mix it up with the best of the best.
Yep, that's great stuff. Did you want to do the football as a business thing?
Let's save that one.
Okay,
let's go right on to Jimmer, since we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmer, ESPN basketball writer Myron Metcalf, he listed, as you mentioned to Sherry, the top 25 college basketball players over the last 25 years. Remember, Jimmer was a National Player of the Year in one of those 25 years.
So, he's in the 25.
He's got to be in it, right?
It's a matter of where.
And they had him number 24.
And I thought,
Yeah. Kevin Durant was one. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because not only was he phenomenal at Texas in college, he's one of the best players in the history of the game. But let's talk about Jimmer's body of work. He averaged 28.9 points in 2011. He won the National Player of the Year. He was an AP All-American. I think it's too low.
Yeah, he should be up higher. I don't know where, because once you start looking at those names, you're like, well, okay, but
I would have, as I was looking at the names, I'm like, 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I would have
He was
felt
phenomenal. No one could stop him.
he's one of the greatest scorers in the history of college basketball. And, it didn't work out for him in the NBA, not in the right place at the right time. It was phenomenal overseas, especially in China. But this is college basketball we're talking about. When he was in college basketball, Sherry mentioned one of her favorite 5 moments was when Jimmer and Kawhi Leonard were going one another in the Marriott Center. And it was, Jimmer caught the imagination of the entire country. He was so good. He was such a gifted scorer. 28.9 points a game. I think he should have been in somewhere between 10 and 15.
I agree. And now we're waiting for him to be named officially to the U.S. Olympic team for 3-on-3 basketball
how cool
to
is
compete
that?
in Paris next summer and introduce Jimmermania to the global stage.
Yep. Yeah. And
he's got the personality to do it.
There was a little bit of Jimmermania going on with this tournament here.
Yeah.
This last FIBA.
They took second. I think it was Serbia. It was won 7 straight. And they got him at the buzzer.
Would have been a silver in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think, hey.
He's going for gold.
The Olympics, is the Olympics ready for Jimmermania?
Jimmer and a gold medal on the front of a Wheaties box, even though no one eats Wheaties anymore. That would still be classic.
You know what? Why can't he just be right beside Tony the Tiger on the Frosted Flakes?
I'd rather have him on the Flakes than Wheaties.
Yep, for sure. So that's pretty fun.
Other men's hoops news. No Cougars taken in the NBA draft. Former BYU guard Rudy Williams, who's from Hamilton, Ontario, signed to play with Edmonton in the Canadian Elite Basketball League. And you know what that is? That's getting paid to play.
It's getting paid to play.
So congratulations.
And a lot of, BYU hasn't had a lot of success with NBA guys. Brandon Davies had a nice run most recently. But, we had Travis Hansen on the show. Travis had a really nice career.
Yeah, most of it overseas, but he was with the Hawks for a little bit.
Yeah, with the Hawks for a little bit. But BYU just hasn't had a lot of recent success. I think it's going to change as they get into Big 12.
It's got to.
They're going to get some guys. If they don't, then they're really going to struggle, right?
Yeah.
But, hey, if you can get paid
to play, no matter what it is,
our good buddy
do it.
And colleague Tyler Haas, he made a good living for quite a while overseas playing professional basketball.
Just do it.
So Big 12 hoops in the park. Let's talk about that. BYU women's head coach Amber Whiting and men's head coach Mark Pope. They'll be among 11 Big 12 coaches working the Big 12 hoops in the park this summer. It's July 18th in Rucker Park in New York City. How fun! Rucker Park is like if you grew up in New York, Rucker Park is where all the street ballers come and play. Yeah. Jimmers played in Rucker Park. When Kalani, goes back and does his little, where he takes the little and helps sponsor that youth football team back in New York City area, they get over to Rucker Park and do some things. The coaches, they spend a day teaching skills to be successful on the court, and they talk to participants a lot about living a good life off of it. So it's like
awesome.
It's life skills and basketball in Rucker Park, inner city New York. I love it because that's home for me. And both Amber Whiting and Mark Pope will be involved in that.
The Big Dance is returning to Salt Lake City next March. First round games, March 21st and 23rd at the Delta Center. BYU will already have played a game there. They'll take on Fresno State December 1st at the Delta Center when Christmas Around the World comes into. We're still kind of hoping we get that game, but we'll see.
We've always had the games in the Delta Center the last couple of years, whether it's Utah State. We're hoping we get.
It'd be on ESPN Plus, but we'll see.
We might get that one. BYU golf. How fun was it watching Zach Blair?
Man, he had a good day.
Yes, he did. So
62.
Former Cougar Zach Blair shot a 62 on Sunday. Finished tied for second at the Travelers Championship.
Second place. Well, that's probably good money.
Pay attention to this number. $1.78 million
for second place.
That's a step closer to retaining his PGA Tour card for another year, which is a big deal when you're in Zach. You're scratching, trying to be, get your card for the next year.
Can you imagine that on Wednesday you don't have $1.78 million, and on Sunday you do?
Yeah,
that's the magic of being
so
a good golfer.
So I told you if I take second in that tournament and I get $1.78 million, I'm pretty much out of everything else other than doing this with you. I'm retired and we're going to do this.
He's playing in the Rocket Mortgage Classic this week in Detroit.
That's right.
We'll see if we can get a few more points and lock down that tour card. Congrats to Zach. Former Cougar Alicia May Mateo going to compete in the U.S. Women's Open. Mm-hmm. That's coming up July 6th.
Yeah, and hey, Berlin Long, we know Berlin's family really well. She's competing in the U.S. Women's Amateur Championship August 7th through the 12th. So good luck to both Berlin and to Alicia May Mateo.
Our friend Tony Finau is going to defend his title at the Rocket Mortgage Classic later this week in Detroit, which Zach will be competing in.
Yep.
And Dan Forsman, our friend of the show, was back on the Champions Tour last weekend at the Dick's Sporting Goods Open in upstate New York, back in your neck of the woods. He finished tied for 68th, which means he's the 68th best golfer in the world on the Champions Tour for guys who are, 60 and over or 55 and over, however they do it. But he beat PGA champion John Daly by 9 shots.
Yeah, there you go. That's all you need to think about. And
that's awesome.
And by the way, I ran into Trudy, Dan's wife, the other day, and she blames you for this.
Yes, I'm in her doghouse.
Yeah, she says.
I said, Diane, call Trudy, take her to lunch.
She said Dave talked him into this.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Dan's coming back from an injury. And surgery, shoulder surgery. So he's playing his way back into form.
And he hasn't played a lot, but he can play.
Yes.
That's the thing. It's like he can play on the Champions Tour. So my advice to him was, if you can, you should.
Right. And you know what? And Dan, we love Dan. Dan loves the game.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, but I'm in Trudy's doghouse.
Yeah, because you did this. You sent him off last weekend. Trudy was kind of liking having him around the house, and you sent him off to play in a tournament.
I know. More power to him.
So there you go. There's this behind the scenes.
And I texted him, and he didn't have the greatest round. He was disappointed. I just texted him and said, I love that you beat John Daly by 9 shots.
See, you got to look at the silver lining,
Absolutely.
Right? So, let's talk about Neon Trees. Our good friends from Neon Trees. We've had.
Remember when Elaine Bradley was here? She goes, "Hey, we got a new album out. It's ready."
Yeah. So
that was news.
The Favorite Days tour has been announced. So but they don't spell it DAYS. It's DAZE.
That's how they do it.
So I like it. Little twist. The Favorite Days tour has been announced. Elaine Bradley and Brandon Campbell. They've both been on the show. Will be part of that tour with Neon
Trees.
Half
the band's been on our show. Isn't that cool?
That's pretty awesome. So
they'll be at the Complex in Salt Lake City on Saturday, October 7th. That's BYU's bye weekend.
Let's all go.
It goes perfectly with that open date and other tour dates, and ticket info is at neontrees.com. And, of course, we're pitching that because they both came on our show and gave us all the time
they're
that we
great
wanted.
friends, and hey, we're wishing them great luck because they've had multiple bouts with multiple folks with bad health in recent years, and they're all
including Brandon.
Right, Brandon for sure.
He plays the bass. And
they're all healthy.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go out. And then Elaine has taken some time and hosted shows at BYU TV.
Yeah, she's ready to go play the drums.
She's ready to go play drums and go out on tour. So that's pretty fun.
So good luck to the Neon Trees as they hit the road. On this day, let's wrap it up with some things here. On this day, June 27th. Remember, sometimes we have shows on days where not a lot happened? And then there are days when
not one of those
things
days.
that changed our life happen.
Right.
Here we go, June 27th, on this day.
In 1778, the Liberty Bell returned to Philadelphia after British departure.
So I guess they didn't want the British to take it, so they had to put it somewhere.
They put it in Philadelphia.
And hey, the fight's over. They left, and here comes the bell.
It comes to Philadelphia.
That's perfect for this time of year as we get ready.
Next tour stop for Libby and the Moulin Rouge is
Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia.
Fantastic.
So,
1929, on this day, the first color TV is demonstrated by Bell Laboratories in New York. Now we can watch live games on our phone in color, in high definition.
And guess what? We are going to go back and do a BYU tie here because television, Philo T. Farnsworth.
So,
he's got ties to BYU.
Absolutely.
So, and Idaho, southeastern Idaho.
Our life wouldn't be the same without Philo.
So 1955, the first automobile seatbelt law is passed in Illinois. 1955.
So if you don't like it, that's where it started.
So, and here's the thing.
But I like it. I always wear my seatbelt.
Here's a question for you. And Brenda's probably not listening anymore because she's on her way to a tennis tournament, but maybe they're listening in the car. When you get in a car, is the first thing you don't even have to think about it, just reflex. You just put your, that's me.
And of course there's the ding, and sometimes Diane won't click it right away, and so it dings and dings, and I say, should we sing a Christmas carol with this bell, or are we going to?
You and I, we both know, we talk about this, and Diane and Brenda they're seatbelt protesters. That's what they are.
And they wear them, but they don't wear them willfully.
So we start, they do wear them, but we start off and it's always like ding, ding, ding. Yeah. And then here's what I say, and I'm not patient enough and I need to learn to be patient. I go, are you serious right now? And she goes, what? And
well, listen, we teach our kids to do it. We should do it, right?
That's right.
Come on.
So
Come on,
1955. The rule's been around in Illinois since 55. We got to start wearing our seatbelts all the time.
1974 on this day, President Nixon visits the USSR, and that was a big deal back then.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff didn't just happen.
Not too far from the USSR last week when I was over in Croatia. Beautiful country. 1977, by a 5-4 vote.
This before you finish, this changed all of our lives.
Yeah. Just one word, billboards. But anyhow, by a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court allowed lawyers to advertise.
Now, if you're in Vegas, and I was there for 20 years.
Oh, my goodness.
You go to a commercial in your newscast, it's like 5 commercials about attorneys.
Every billboard's about attorneys. 5-4 vote, they allowed them to.
1981, Betty Davis Eyes by Kim Carnes.
Kim
number
Carnes
one.
had that raspy
I
voice.
still love that song.
Yeah, it's a good song. How about 1988, your old friend.
Iron Mike.
Were you at this fight? No, you weren't, because it wasn't in Vegas.
I was on my mission.
Mike Tyson knocks out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds.
91 seconds. This was when he was...
He was a wrecking machine back in those days.
He was.
He came out and just pursued.
1990 on this day, Jose Canseco signs a record $4.7 million per year contract with the Oakland A's. 4.7 per year.
It seemed crazy.
This season, Aaron Judge is making $40 million from the Yankees.
Yes, of course he is.
He's not even playing because he's hurt. But 4.7 back then was what? And now 40 million is like, yeah, that's what he's making.
So in 2020, a locust invasion is labeled Swarmageddon by the Times of India as it reached Delhi.
Yeah, Swarmageddon. Boy, if I had Swarmageddon, I wouldn't feel good about that either.
You weren't with us. You didn't go with us down to that TCU game.
No, I was on my mission.
Yeah, that's right. You were on your mission.
With the Crickets.
That's right. I was doing the game with Craig.
Yeah, it's after BYU came to Austin, beat Texas, then a couple weeks later over in Fort Worth,
and we had an invasion of crickets, and they were crawling all over us. We were up in the booth on top of the stadium, Craig and I, and they were crawling all over us. It was the creepiest thing ever.
It's creepy when they're creeping
and they got out on the field and they were sweeping them into giant black garbage bags and hauling them off. It was crazy. Guys were slipping on crickets when they were going to make a cut in that game.
Hey, also on this day, just a few minutes ago, Michael Rucker pitched a clean inning against the Phillies. 1 strikeout, no hits. He's been solid. The Cubs are getting beat 5-0, but it's not because of him. It was because the guy in front of him gave up 5 runs on 7 hits. So another solid outing from the only Cougar in the major leagues.
And Michael's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. Yeah. So we're always rooting for Michael.
Birthdays today, June 27th.
Yeah. How about in 1880, Helen Keller
was
born on June 27th, born deaf and blind, and what she accomplished with those 2 deficiencies, unbelievable.
Yeah, on this day. 1930, Ross Perot.
Yeah.
George Bush Sr. still believes that Ross Perot cost him his
Ross Perot. Did I tell you?
Cost him his
you see what I'm saying?
re-election.
He had all those. Didn't he draw all the graphs and all the charts?
Yeah. When he talks so fast, you had to listen.
Listen to me when I'm telling you. Listen to me. So,
Saturday Night Live had a heyday with Ross Perot.
How about in 1975, Spider-Man himself, Tobey Maguire.
Is that your favorite Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Or do you like the new guy?
No, I like Tobey Maguire.
He was good.
Yeah, he's the best.
He was good. Deaths on this day, June 27th, significant for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. 1844, Joseph and Hiram Smith, killed by a mob at Liberty Jail in Carthage, Illinois. Joseph, the prophet of the restoration of the church 179 years ago. And our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Joseph Smith.
Right. Happiness is the object and design of our existence and will be the end thereof if we pursue the path that leads to it. And this path is virtue, uprightness, faithfulness, holiness, and keeping all the commandments of God.
You know, it doesn't matter what church you belong to, what religion you subscribe to. The context, as this quote, applies to every human being.
Absolutely. And it's close to home for Brenda's family. Brenda's lineage is the Smith family. Hiram Smith is Brenda's great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
So, yep.
Well, there's a statue. If you've been through Nauvoo, there's a statue of Joseph and Hiram on their 2 horses looking west. They didn't come west with the pioneers because of what had happened, but all the events that transpired after that, and here we are in the West because of it.
Utah's here because of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Brigham Young, of course. So carried on the plan.
Saturday afternoon, we will see you from 3 to 5 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU TV for our game day coverage of the big party celebrating BYU's official admittance into the Big 12. For 12 years, Blaine, we've sat on all these shows and wondered and speculated if the big time was ever going to come.
It's here.
And on Saturday, it will officially be here.
We're at the front door.
Yeah.
We're at the front door. I'm excited for the show. That's going to be a fun show we have.
We'll have Nixon there, Brian Logan,
we're doing
Spencer and Jerem.
prep today. We're going back and forth with one another today. It's going to be a great show. You know what? If you can't get there, come watch the show. If you can get there, come. It's going to be a really fun environment. You can listen. We'll have it on the speakers there.
Music, food trucks, players,
athletes, coaches. It's going to be fun. So come join us for the big celebration.
And the weather's supposed to be decent, like sunny and a high of 88, which is actually pretty good for the day of the Stadium of Fire. Some of those have been roasters. And then Saturday night, of course, we'll see you over at the stadium. Hopefully it's sold out. Hopefully you got some seats. That's going to be a fun show. And then the next big event in that place at Lavelle Edwards Stadium is when the Cougars take the field to play Sam Houston.
Yep. Hey, the time is running short until it's all on. Fun stuff. Hey, and I'm going to shout out before we go to Kay Porter, who's following and just said, hey, we're related. Hiram Smith is also my great-great-great-grandfather. There we go.
You guys are in good company.
Good to have you on, cousin.
We thank Sherry Dew for spending a lot of time with us tonight. The podcast will be up tomorrow, so you can listen to it again. Share it with your friends. Remember, like us on our YouTube page. Go to ysguys.com. Subscribe there. Both are free. That'll give you highlights from tonight's show and help us to continue to build the show. And by the way, this show's going places.
Yep.
And we'll have some news about that
in the coming weeks. And hey, shout out to my real cousin who just chimed in, Tammy Van Houten Drake, back in New York. So thanks to my new cousin. And thanks to my old cousin.
We should almost be on Monday. It's like family.
There we go. It's
hour.
family hour.
Hey, thanks for everybody. We're all over the world tonight, from the Philippines to New York to Washington to California,
Hawaii.
Texas, Hawaii, all over the state of Utah, all over Cougar Nation.
Thanks for joining us and thanks for chiming in.
Have an awesome week. 4th of July, we'll have a brand new podcast out for that one as well. And July means football is back. Can you believe that?
Let's do it.
Let's get to July.
Let's do it. See you next week, everyone.
See ya.